to episode 2 of the Clay Chronicles, where mud meets magic. In this series, we'll embark on a journey through my collection, unraveling the secrets of their creation, decoration, and the masterful hands that brought them to life. From cups to home decor, we'll explore the mysteries, the skills and techniques, and the talented potters who transformed mud into magic. Today, we will be discussing the work of Ben Krupka. Ben is a ceramics and design professor at Bard College at Simon Rock. My name is Paige Kelly, and I am the potter, maker, and creator behind Zephyr Valley Ceramics. I created this series to bring ceramics education and inspiration to underserved communities and clay fans alike. Welcome! Thank you so much for joining me again. Today we're going to talk about one of the most influential instructors that I ever had, Ben Krupka. And Ben was a resident at the Archie Bray Foundation in 2003 through 2005. Then Ben spent a little time at the Red Lodge Clay Center in Red Lodge, Montana, and eventually ended up at Bard College at Simon Rock and is currently an instructor in design and ceramics there. So I wanted to share with you the piece that I have that I purchased from what I'm thinking might have been Ben's exit show. And I will, of course, include an image here. So this is two sides of the same picture. And you'll see that in the intro image as well. So for those of you that are just listening to this, please be sure to go to YouTube or the image on your playlist and have a look at this amazing picture. So I'm going to hold it up. This is one side of the picture, and it is very shiny in tones of browns and coppers. It's got a bit of a flash, which is some iron. And you'll notice on the side of the pot, there are these sort of gray spots. Now, what those gray spots are burned out seashells that were used in place of wadding. Okay, I'm going to turn the picture around, and from the front, you can start to see some ash. This is ash from the wood kiln. And in some ways, and sometimes you'll hear this referred to as wood kiln glaze, because this pot went in a bisque form, was laid on its side using seashells as wadding so that the pot would not be touching the kiln shelf, and it would be held above the kiln shelf. And as the flame and the ash from the wood firing went around the pot, because of gravity, you get the wood ash, the gray mottled, almost, sometimes you can also see a little bit of a green hue. That will be the wood ash. And because it's that side's up, it's collecting the wood ash on the top, and on the bottom, that flame just licks on the bottom through the seashells, burns the seashells out most of the time, sometimes not entirely. So you do get the very texture of the seashell on this particular piece. I'm going to hold it up to the camera here so you can kind of get a really good sense of the texture of the seashells there. And that one especially on the bottom of this picture. And you'll also notice that some of it's very glossy and some of it's not so glossy. Again, that's part of that wood firing process. And I want to show you Ben's signature on the bottom. So that is Ben's signature. It's not a deep foot. It's just almost the hint of a foot. It's very, very smooth, very soft. I want to point out the handle. See how it caught some of that ash? The other thing that I would like to point out to you about this handle is the way that it's very visible in its attachment. It's not smoothed into the body of the pitcher at all, showing the signs of the maker and the hand that made it. Same here at the bottom where the handle is attached, right? Right there. You can see a lot of really juicy ash got caught between the handle and the body of the pot. Now, this pitcher was wheel thrown and then altered. So you can see by hand, there is a swoop where you can see that there was Ben's hand just pushing on the outside of this pot and then also pushing from the inside so that you could get this non-circular shape. So he put his fingers in the pot, right, as it's on the wheel, and just gently pushed out at those points to kind of give it almost a squarish shape, and used a rib or his fingers to create this undulating swoosh. Now, I also want to point out that the lip of this pot is really nice and thick. It's a generous lip. It's going to be very sturdy for a very long time. It's going to be very hard to chip this edge because it has a nice thickness to it. And then you'll also see that the spout of the pitcher is part of this lip. And that's because when Ben made this, he used the generous amount of clay that he left at the top to pull this out, form it with his fingers from the outside and from the inside, and likely doing a smoothing like that, putting his finger along the spout, making it nice and wide and smooth. It's got a little bit of sharpness right here, and that's to help with the pouring process, so that when you're pouring something out of it, it doesn't drip or dribble. So it's got a little bit of sharpness right there. And by sharp, I mean just, it's not going to cut you sharp. It's just that the top of that comes to a point. Okay. So this is the pitcher. Now I want to tell you a little bit about Ben. I met Ben at the Bray when I was a community student there, and I was taking courses from junior, and I thought that Ben's work was really interesting and organic looking, right? So the wood firing process in and of itself is a pretty organic process. And then in 2004, in the spring, I went back to college, and the local college here, had a ceramics. It had a very small arts department. And the ceramics professor there, whom we will talk about in a later episode, had worked with Archie Bray Foundation to bring in one of the residents to teach a special class. And Ben was the instructor for that class. So I got to study with Ben for a full semester. And he put us through, as a collective, a sort of a beginner's 101, where we worked with coils and pinch pots and slabs and throwing, of course. Some of the things that he asked us to do were pretty challenging. One of them, as I recall, was making a 14-inch tall coil pot. That was a challenge for me because I had really disliked any of that style of making. I didn't like working with coils, didn't particularly like working with pinch pots, but because it was hard, it didn't come as naturally to me as throwing at the wheel did. But during the course of that class, I found that I was very interested in that organic look. I wanted nature to take its course, but we weren't really wood firing, and I knew that in the long term I wouldn't really be able to be a wood fire artist because there are certain things that have to be in place for that to work, not the least of which is a place where you can build a kiln and cut wood and firewood. And wood firing is a very intensive process. It's typically done in a community kind of setting where a potter who has a wood kiln will invite people to bring pots and put their pots in a kiln to help with the stoking and the firing, because sometimes it can take several days. 3 to 5 days is not unheard of. So in my effort to make an organic looking pot, I used a splatter technique. Just letting things land where they may. And I think every beginning ceramic artist does this. There's just something about that splatter that's appealing when you're in the decoration of your pots. So I did fairly well in the class, and I will be forever grateful for all of the things that I learned from Ben. But the thing that I learned from Ben that I didn't appreciate at the time, I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit, I got my feelers hurt, was Ben told me as he's looking at my work that the decoration was not pretty. I don't remember exactly what he said about what he thought about how it was decorated. But what he told me that has stuck with me all of these years since is be intentional, which is a struggle when you're also trying to be organic and let things happen. And it's taken me a long time to master that. I think that's one of the really attractive things about wood firing, is that it gives you the opportunity to be intentional, but also leave it up to the kiln gods to do what they may. So so at the time I was like, oh God, I was being intentional, but he was really right. There's a way of doing it that can make it look organic and yet still be very intentional. And I think it's taken me a long time to understand how to do that, but I've certainly appreciated that piece of advice for a very long time. So I want to pass that along to you when you're thinking about your work. Even if you want it to be organic, be intentional. So I like to share that with friends and people who are interested in doing clay themselves. So again, I'm going to show you this picture. And one of the things that this pot taught me is that you can throw a cylinder and you can give it volume. And so I just want to present again, this is the foot. It's a very narrow foot. And there's so much volume in this picture. And I really love it. And I love the shine. I love the sheen. It's been one of my favorite pieces in my collection. And I'm so excited to be able to share that with you today. I would like to show you some other examples that are available on the internet for you to see of Ben's work. I will, of course, include all of that information in the description below. I would highly recommend that you take some time really soaking this in, because Ben is constantly evolving. One of the things that he has done is continued with the wood firing process, but he has also done a lot of design. He kind of mid-career made some design changes, and now he's back doing some more of the organic shapes and feels. Let me share this with you. Okay, so I wanted to start with, I always kind of like to start with a general overview of work. I will include this search with the links in the description. All of this is Ben's work. You can see the consistency of shape, the volume. I love these so much. These are so gorgeous. There's Ben. This is also Ben. And yeah, these are just some really great pots. Now see here, this is a pot that Ben did that has a bit of a different feel to it. It doesn't have that organic feel, but if you look at the shape, it still maintains sort of that organic feel to it. Just the shape, the form of the pot. the pictures always have great volume. So I will include this in the description. I also wanted to show you Ben's website. A lot of those images off of Google are those that came from Ben's website. You can see these little dots here on this plate. Those little dots are wadding. So like on the picture that I have, the shells were used as wadding to hold the pot up from the kiln shelf so that the glaze, the wood fire, the ash could go around the pot. Similarly, wadding was used here so that it would lift the plate up off of the kiln shelf and allow the ash and the fire to move around the pot. So that was, I should say, another thing that I learned from Ben is you do not have to be conventional about how you load your kiln. If you want to fire your pot on its side, you can do that. If you want to fire your pot upside down, you can do that. Just make sure that if you're in the glaze firing, that you have that pot propped up in some form or fashion with a post or wadding or shells, in whatever way that works, because those things can then be removed after the firing. This pot is just, look at the gorgeousness of the way the ash moved around this pot, and there's so much texture, but you can see the intentionality, right? There's movement, it's going all in the same direction, and yeah, it's beautiful. Okay, so let's look at Instagram. Ben's got a lovely puppy. This is actually a fairly recent picture. You can see these gourd shapes, again with the texture. Texture will do things differently in the wood kiln than they will with a smooth pot. And I think that is a really great way to help catch some of that ash and get that crunchy yumminess that you can get out of a pot. Then Ben has a couple of pieces in the Rosenfield collection. You'll notice when I am showing pots, I will often include links to the Rosenfield collection. It's just an amazing collection that's used to help aid in education of ceramics. So you get two very good examples of Ben's styles of work here. You've got the wood fire work, and then you have the more glazed, colorful work. And here's a piece that is part of the artist statement that Ben has at the Red Lodge Clay Center. And you can purchase artwork from them, so you can see what's available there. I definitely recommend that if you're interested, you contact the Red Lodge Clay Center. I will also include Ben's contact information. I reached out to him and asked what his preferences were for being contacted, so I will include that in the description. And then there's a really nice discussion about Ben on YouTube at Bard College at Simon's Rock. I really hope that you have enjoyed looking at this piece with me, hearing my thoughts about the making of it. If you have any questions or comments, please be sure to leave those in the comments. And we'll see you again next time. Thank you for joining me on episode 2 of the Clay Chronicles, where mud meets magic. Be sure to check out the links that I have included in the description to find out more about Ben Krupka. I'm excited to share this artist's work with you, and I hope you found it inspiring, educational, and entertaining. Please be sure to leave any questions or thoughts about this episode in the comments, and check the description for more information about Ben. I would like to acknowledge that the land where this web series / podcast is produced is on land that is occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Salish people. This episode was written, recorded, and edited by Paige Kelly and produced by EPicMediaMarketing, LLC. The music is a traditional Irish tune, Jacky Tar, performed, recorded, and provided by John Piccolo. Thank you so so much for watching that video. Your support allows me to continue to make this content. If you want to support this work on an even greater level, you will find opportunities to join as a subscriber, make a donation, or buy merch in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.